Hey Mini enthusiasts, how you doing? Welcome back. I hope you're having a great day and I hope you're all well. Today is another one of those bits and pieces videos where there's nothing in particular I've got to do or nothing specific, so it's just going to be lots of bits and bobs. Yeah, I suppose these videos happen every now and again. I'm actually struggling with the motivation lately to again get out in the garage and get stuff done. It's not usually an issue. I usually have too much footage and not enough time to edit it, but it's the other way around at the moment. I've got plenty of edit time and not enough footage. And that is usually because we're well into doing Mark's project as well, which will be the Mark III Cooper S. And because of COVID restrictions, because of everything else that's going on in the world, Mark just hasn't been able to get started on that yet. And when he does get started, I'm not gonna, certainly we're in tier 4 at the moment, so I'm not gonna be able to go down and help him, which is a little bit frustrating. So he's going to be on his own. Hopefully it's only for the first bit, but yeah, it means I've got less footage to sit there and edit and get up. So yeah, it's going to kind of be bits and pieces. I am slightly more motivated this evening because a friend messaged me and he says, do you want to come and play golf tomorrow? And I'm like, well, we're in tier 4, we can't, can we? But apparently you can. Golf is an outdoor activity. You can play, but you can only play with one other person. So I've got the golf clubs out, and that actually inspired me to come out into the garage because I've put them away for the winter, but I'm like, nah, it's something I can do now. So I'm actually really happy about that. It's perked me up a bit, and it's why I'm in the garage tonight. I've come out to grab the golf clubs and I thought I might as well do a few bits on the Mini while I'm out there. So what else have we got going on? So let me flip the camera around. So under the bonnet, we're just starting to put bits and bobs back in and back together now. I am a little bit restricted. I've started running cables, sorting out the wiring, putting in all the blanking plates on the bulkhead. On one blanking plate plug missing. I've just put that on my mini spares list, but I'm missing, well, I'm not missing, I've got one there. I need a new replacement bulkhead insulation. Now this is like the later minis, like the SPIs and MPIs, that it's a foam insulation pad, and replacing it like for like. These are not great because they're open cell foam, so that means they're like a sponge. If you get them wet, they stay wet and they hold the water in. The later ones they do that I've done as replacements for Sprout and PL are foam, but they're closed cell foam, so that means they won't retain water and you still do get the sound deadening effect. The only problem is these don't seem to be available anywhere. It's almost identical to the later MPI ones, apart from obviously this doesn't have a brake servo, so there's a bit more foam that's not cut out down at this end. But apart from that, it's very, very similar. So if anyone knows how I can get one of them, I have tried, and I did message the eBay store, which I believe is, I think, let me try and Smithy Bits, I think, Smithy Bits make them. And I messaged them on eBay and to ask if they'd done an earlier carburetted one, non-servo, and no one got back to me. So if anyone knows those guys at Smithy Bits, I could really do with one. And if you want one as a template, this one's a bit ropey, but it's completely intact. It's not been ripped, and it's quite rare to find. Mostly they get like that, they get horrible, and people just tear them out and be done with them. I've also got the subframe over here. Not sure whether I've mentioned this. This is back from shot blasting and powder coating. I was really in two minds again around originality, whether I just paint it or powder coat it, because it wouldn't have been powder coated from factory. The wheels are back. I'm going to do an episode on the Imp wheels because I have come across issues with them. As you can see, I've got 16 wheel nuts here. These need to go off to be machined, and a friend of mine's going to do that, fellow YouTuber. I will give him a big plug when we do the video, Mini Mac TV. So Mini Mac TV is helping me out there with getting them machined. I've got the hub assemblies up on the side here, so I need to get them stripped. That'll probably be the time lapse in this video. I've got top and bottom swivels. They're not worn out, but I'm just doing them while I'm here. But I'm in two minds whether to do the wheel bearings or not. If I do, there'll be Timken wheel bearings. I think they're about 50-60 quid a side, so that adds 120 quid to the overall build. So money should be no object, but it is an object. It is to me anyway. So I'm going to take them apart. I'll actually think I'll take the bearings out and look at the bearing cases and see what they're like. See if they're like the front top arms where there's rusty sort of witness marks there where it's been sat and obviously a bit of moisture's got in there. If that is the case with the bearings, then I'll definitely be replacing them. If they're nice and shiny and fresh looking, then I won't be, because it's just spending money for the sake of spending money then. And I've not done many miles in it, but obviously I drove it back from when I bought it. In fact, I think that's the only time I've driven it, actually. Yeah, driving it back from when I bought it. There was no bearing noises or anything like that. So that's it. Let me get on with it tonight. I've waffled on for ages. I've got a glass of wine, a couple of hours spare. Don't operate machinery and alcohol at the same time, obviously. Ignore me. And yeah, let's just get on and get some bits and bobs done. Just a little quickie. I had started taking this fuse box apart. So this is all Mini owners, certainly pre 1990-ish, I think, will recognise this fuse box. Earlier ones just had a double fuse box, but this fuse box, Lucas fuse box, went on for quite a long time. And of course they just corrode, and I don't know how well you can see it in here, but the fuse itself is corroded here. And these terminals are brass or copper, so they don't corrode, but they do oxidize and you get a bad connection. So I started taking this apart, and so if you ever want to do this, they're just like any electrical connection you want to take apart. Actually, there's a couple of tabs inside which you bend inwards. They sort of hold the terminal in place. You can then press the terminal out. You can get that out, and then if you want, wire wheel, bit of wet and dry, whatever you need. You can clean up the bit where the fuse goes or clean up where the terminal goes. And when you refit it, that's the locking tab on the side. There's one each side. And then as you push that back in, it will clip in place securely. So I started doing that. It took me about, I don't know, 2 minutes to do one. So I'm thinking 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Probably 20 minutes to clean this up. I just very quickly had a look on Mini Spares. They're £8 brand new. So although I do like saving money, that is just pointless really. I'll get a new one, £8, job's done. But if you want to go to the effort, you can take all those prongs out and clean them up. Right, there we go. So it's all stripped down. I'm not going to time-lapse stripping down the other side because it's exactly the same as this side. I'll just go over a few bits I found on this, bits that you might be able to help me out with actually, if you're knowledgeable about Mini. So this is the drive shaft. This is the inner CV joint or pot joint end of the shaft, which this bit goes on, and then there's obviously the pot joint casing which goes into the gearbox, which is over the other side of the workshop at the moment. But I found on this drive shaft there was a white rubber O-ring on the inside of here, and I think it's there just to stop grease passing those inner splines, but I've never seen it before. I've taken lots of Minis apart, I've put them back together, I've never seen that O-ring there before. I've certainly never refitted it because I never knew they were meant to have one, but maybe they're fitted there originally and the first time they're removed, well, like this one, I went to take it off and it just broke. It broke very easily. So I'd imagine the first time you remove the pot joints, that probably either comes off with it or breaks. So should it be there? Is it something they just had on earlier ones and they changed and didn't put on later ones? Because I'll refit it if it needs it. We're going to be doing the swivels anyway, just as a matter of course. One was a little bit loose actually, but you know, that's not unusual. 12,000 miles. Swivels need adjusting. That's probably pretty fair, to be honest. So we're going to do a pair of swivels anyway. We're going to do a brake hose as well. Nothing wrong with this one, apart from the fact that it's 37-year-old rubber. There's no cracks in it, but why risk it for the cost of a brake pipe? There's a few bits I'm not going to be doing. So the brake caliper, that'll just get a clean up and a respray. I've had a look through the brake pipe hole in the back. It all looks clean inside, and I managed to squeeze the pistons back in just with my thumb and 2 fingers, so the pistons are quite free inside there. The brake pads in it they look brand new, and that is because they pretty much are. They're date stamped. It looks like 01/2004, 01/04. So these pads have been replaced, but that doesn't surprise me because I think from memory, looking back through the invoices, the car was recommissioned in mid-2004, late 2004. There's an invoice in there for 800 quid, and it says about unseizing the brakes, towing it out of a garage, which is I think how the rear valance got damaged. And obviously since 2004 this car's done less than 1,000 miles, so I'm not going to be replacing the pads. I think they're fine. There's certainly plenty of meat left on them. They look like new, and yeah, done less than 1,000 miles. I might do the discs. There's no wear on the discs, but they are a little bit scored up. They look like an old 45 record, but I reckon that's just where the discs have gone rusty. Vehicle's been moved, rusted a little bit, moved a bit, rusted a little bit, and it just scores up the brake discs. Aside from that, so everything else looks good. The bearings look spot on. So I took them right out, looked at the bearing cases just to see if there's any rust or anything like that on them, any marking, and they look perfect. And when I look on the back of them, as you can see, Timken, made in England, they'll be the original bearings. But sometimes with this stuff, I do these videos and I think to myself, what would the viewers say when I put this video up? And I'm sure a lot of people are going to say, if you've gone that far, you should have just done the bearings. For the cost of doing the bearings, you should just do them for peace of mind. So I think I will. I get that logic. They look perfectly okay, but again, they're 37 years old. It's a car that would have been stood around for years and years and years without moving. And like I say, my concern was that I'd see some pitting inside here. I don't, but yeah, I just let me know if you think different, but they don't need doing, but I've got this far and you think I might as well just do them. Everything else really is just a clean up and a refresh. I'm even in 2 minds about the CV boots. So the clips on the CV boots are seamless ones. So I've had to cut them through the middle there, but there is no seam on those clips at all. It's the same. It was the same for all of them, inner, outer, inside and outside, which tells me they've never been replaced. So because they fit plastic cable ties or they fit metal clips, but they have a join in them to fit them on. So that'll be a OE factory fit clip, which means So I'm in two minds about the rubber then. So there's no cracking on these CV boots at all. I will give them a good thorough clean up, but I'm just dubious, as you know, about modern rubbers. They don't last as long. You fit a CV boot nowadays, 2 years down the line, the rubber's cracked and you're ended up replacing it again. So I'm in two minds there, whether to just clean them up, new clips on them and put them back on, because as I say, there's no cracking on them, or do I buy a new set? Sometimes you do just replace stuff for the sake of replacing it, so I'm not sure whether to stick with the old rubber. Again, let me know what you think. And that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give it a thumbs up if you do. Drop me a comment down the bottom and we'll be back again soon.